Captain Kim of the United Earth Federation stood tall as he entered the grand meeting hall of the Galactic Confederation. The room buzzed with various alien species, their forms diverse and strange. Some floated in hover chairs, others slithered across the polished floor, and a few perched on high platforms designed for winged beings. Kim straightened his uniform and approached the central podium where 5 senior representatives waited. Their tall, slender bodies towered over his human frame, and their silver eyes regarded him with barely hidden contempt. "Welcome, human representative," said the tallest one, named Taro. "We trust your journey was comfortable despite your species' fragile constitution." Kim smiled politely, ignoring the subtle insult. Humans had been labeled Deathworlders when they first joined the Confederation 3 years ago. Earth's high gravity, extreme weather patterns, and diverse pathogens had surprised the galactic community. Most species from such harsh worlds evolved to be aggressive predators, yet humans appeared remarkably calm and cooperative. "The journey was fine, thank you," Kim replied. "I bring proposals from Earth regarding the new resource-sharing agreement." Taro waved a long-fingered hand dismissively. Yes, we've reviewed your proposal and made necessary adjustments." A holographic document appeared before Kim. As he scanned it, his heart sank. The adjustments had effectively doubled Earth's resource contributions while having what they would receive in return. It was worse than the previous unfair agreement. But his orders were clear: maintain peace, accept compromises, build relationships. Earth was still new to the galactic stage, still learning the complex politics of space. "I see," Kim said carefully. "These terms seem quite different from our initial proposal." "The Confederation must consider the needs of all member species," said Mori, another representative. "Surely humans understand sacrifice for the greater good." The subtle manipulation was obvious, but Kim maintained his diplomatic facade. "Of course, I will convey these terms to Earth Command." As Kim left the chamber, he didn't notice the group of diplomats watching him with calculating eyes. "These humans are even easier to manipulate than we expected," Taro said quietly. "Despite their Deathworld origins, they lack the spine to stand up for themselves." "Do not underestimate them," cautioned an old representative named Sado. "Their cooperation may hide something deeper." "Nonsense," Mori laughed. "They're desperate to be accepted. We can push them further next cycle." Back on his ship, Kim removed his formal jacket and sighed heavily. This was the 4th unfavorable agreement in a row. He activated his secure communication line to Earth Command. "General Song, the meeting went as expected. They've reduced our terms again." The weathered face of General Song appeared on screen. "Did you accept?" "As instructed, yes." Song nodded slowly. "Good. Continue as planned. Remember, they see only what we want them to see." Kim looked out the viewport at the magnificent Confederation space station, gleaming against the backdrop of stars. "They think we're weak. That Earth produced timid creatures despite our harsh world." "Let them think that," Song replied. "Operation Long Game continues. Document everything. Build the case. And if they push too far?" Kim asked. Song's expression hardened. "Then the galaxy will learn why Deathworlders are traditionally feared." After ending the transmission, Kim opened a hidden compartment in his quarters. Inside sat a small device, undetectable by Confederation scanners. He placed his thumb on its surface, and a hidden database activated, showing hundreds of recorded incidents of discrimination, resource theft, and treaty violations against human interests. He added today's meeting to the growing list. Meanwhile, deep in Earth's Pacific Ocean, massive shipyards operated in secret. Military vessels with technologies unknown to the Confederation were under construction. On Mars, hidden bases trained special forces in zero-gravity combat. Across the solar system, humanity prepared quietly while presenting a face of peaceful cooperation to the galaxy. The humans were indeed Deathworlders, but they had learned strategy alongside survival. They would give diplomacy every chance to succeed. But they were also preparing for the day when playing nice would end. As Kin's ship departed for Earth, Sedo watched from a private chamber, his ancient eyes troubled. Unlike his colleagues, he had studied Earth's history extensively. They smile as they build alliances, he murmured to himself. They negotiate while gathering intelligence, and they always remember who treated them poorly when they were vulnerable. But no one listened to old Sato's warnings. The Confederation continued its greedy games, unaware of the sleeping giant they were carelessly provoking. Park stood motionless among the smoking ruins of what had been New Horizon Colony just 24 hours earlier. The air still carried the acrid smell of destruction, and small fires continued to burn in the distance. 3,000 colonists had called this place home. Now the settlement was nothing but ash and twisted metal. "Director Park," called a voice behind her. "We've completed the initial scan." Park turned to face her security chief, Officer Lee. His uniform was stained with soot, and his eyes were red from the toxic air despite his protective mask. "Tell me," Park said simply. "The attack pattern is clear. This wasn't natural or accidental." Lee handed her a data tablet. Energy signatures matched Nakari weapon systems. Their ships were in orbit 6 hours before the attack. Park reviewed the data, her expression growing darker with each swipe of her finger. The Nakari were a reptilian species known for their territorial nature, but they had maintained neutrality in galactic politics for decades. New Horizon Colony posed no threat to them. It was a research outpost focused on agriculture, deliberately established far from any disputed territories. "Any survivors?" Park asked, though she already knew the answer. Lee shook his head. The attack was thorough. They targeted the environmental systems first, then the communication arrays, then the habitation domes. They knew exactly where to hit. Park walked to what had been the colony's central plaza. A broken statue of the first human explorer to reach this system lay shattered on the ground. She knelt and picked up a child's toy, a simple stuffed bear, somehow mostly intact despite the devastation surrounding it. "Director," said her communications officer, jogging toward them. "We've received a response from the Confederation Council regarding our emergency transmission." Park took the offered message tablet and read it silently. With each word, her jaw tightened. Insufficient evidence of deliberate attack. She finally said, her voice dangerously quiet. "Likely environmental catastrophe or equipment failure." She handed the tablet back. "They didn't even send investigators." "There's more," the communications officer said reluctantly. "The Nakari delegation has issued a statement claiming our colony was accidentally established on a sacred ancestral route. They regret any misunderstanding, but suggest we should have researched more carefully before settling." Park looked around at the systematic destruction. Nothing about this was accidental or a misunderstanding. The attack had been planned, precise, and without warning. "Ma'am," Lee said carefully, "there's something else you should see." He led her to a partially collapsed research building. Inside, several of her team were gathered around a computer terminal that had somehow survived the attack. "We managed to recover some security footage," explained the technician at the console. "This was recorded just before communications went down." The grainy footage showed the colony's defense coordinator speaking urgently into the camera. Behind him, alarms flashed. "Multiple Nakari warships decloaking in orbit," the coordinator reported. "They're not responding to hails. We've activated emergency protocols, but..." He looked up as the lights flickered. "They've already taken out our main power grid. This is a deliberate attack. The Confederation needs tow." The footage cut to static. Park closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, they held a coldness that hadn't been there before. "Send everything we found to Earth Command," she ordered. "Every scan, every piece of evidence, and add a personal message from me. Diplomacy has failed." As her team hurried to follow orders, Park walked outside again. The colony had been home to scientists, farmers, teachers, and children. People who believed in the promise of peaceful coexistence in the galaxy. In her pocket, her secure communicator buzzed. Only Earth's highest command used this channel. Director Park, came General Song's voice. I've reviewed your preliminary report. Is it truly as bad as it appears? Worse, Park replied. And the Confederation is already covering for the Nakari. They won't even acknowledge it was an attack. A long silence followed. I see, Song finally said. The cabinet is meeting now. This changes everything. What are my orders? Park asked. Document everything. Then return to Earth immediately. Song's voice grew grim. The time for tolerance has ended. As Park's shuttle lifted off from the devastated colony, she looked down at the destruction below. For years, humans had endured unfair treatment, exploitation, and condescension from the galactic community. They had been patient, strategic, working within the system despite its flaws. But this, a direct attack on innocent civilians, crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. The Confederation and the Nakari would soon learn why Deathworlders were feared throughout the galaxy. Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel, resolute as it approached the massive Confederation hub station. Through the viewport, he could see the structure's gleaming rings rotating slowly against the backdrop of stars. Hundreds of ships from various species docked at its many ports. Admiral, we're receiving docking instructions, said Lieutenant Joe, the communications officer. They've assigned us to the outer ring. Low-priority diplomatic vessels only. Lee nodded calmly. Accept their instructions. For now. The 3 human ships in the small delegation were deliberately modest in appearance. The Confederation representatives had no way of knowing these vessels carried technology far beyond what humans had previously revealed to the galactic community. Are our other assets in position? Lee asked quietly. Yes, sir, replied Commander Yun, his second in command. All stealth ships report ready. They await your signal. Lee straightened his formal uniform jacket. After the destruction of New Horizon Colony and the Confederation's dismissal of human concerns, Earth's leadership had made a decision. Today would mark a turning point in human-galactic relations. 2 hours later, Admiral Lee walked into the Grand Chamber of the Confederation Council. The massive room curved in a half-circle, with rising tiers of seats filled with representatives from over 200 species. The human delegation was small, just Lee and 4 officers in crisp military attire, rather than the usual diplomatic clothing. Their entrance caused a stir. Military personnel rarely led diplomatic missions. The High Counselor, a tall being with iridescent skin named Taro, looked down from the central podium. The Confederation recognizes the Earth delegation, though we must note this is an unusual representation. Lee stepped forward. High Counselor, respected representatives, I come before you not as a diplomat, but as a military officer because what occurred at New Horizon Colony was not a diplomatic incident, but an act of war. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Admiral, Taro said with obvious condescension, we have already addressed this unfortunate event. Our investigation concluded. Your investigation? Lee interrupted, causing gasps among the representatives. Interrupting the High Counselor was considered deeply disrespectful. There was no investigation. Not a single Confederation vessel visited the site. Not one official spoke with our survey team. Lee activated a small device. Above the chamber floor, a holographic display appeared showing the destroyed colony. Images of the dead, the systematic pattern of destruction, and the Nakari weapons signatures filled the air. 3,000 civilians, scientists, children. Lee's voice remained level, but cold. The United Earth Federation presents terms following this unprovoked attack. We require acknowledgement of responsibility, reparations for the victims' families, and the perpetrators brought to justice. The Nakari representative stood, his scaled skin flushing with anger. This is outrageous. We explain that your colony inadvertently violated our ancestral lies, Lee said simply. We have proof the route claim was created after the attack. Before the chamber could erupt further, Taro raised his hand for silence. When he spoke, his tone was dismissive. Admiral Lee, While your passion is noted, the Confederation has made its decision. The matter is closed. Lee noticed several representatives nodding in agreement, others looking away uncomfortably. For years, humans have been underestimated, their concerns minimized. And if we find this response unacceptable? Lee asked. Now laughter rippled through parts of the chamber. The Nakari representative gestured to the viewports where the 3 modest human ships could be seen. Or what, human? Your 3 outdated vessels will attack our homeworlds. More laughter followed. Lee's expression remained unchanged as he activated his secure communicator. Operative Choi, proceed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the chamber's lights flickered. The massive displays on the walls went dark, then returned showing something that caused immediate panic. On 12 major Confederation worlds, defense systems were simultaneously going offline. Security barriers failed. Communications networks disrupted. On the screens, they could see military installations across multiple species' homeworlds, suddenly vulnerable. The chamber erupted in chaos. What is happening? Taro demanded, his composure shattered. A demonstration, Lee replied, his voice cutting through the noise. For decades, we played by your rules. We accepted unfair treaties. We endured discrimination. We shared only the technology you expected us to have. On the screens, they could now see previously unknown human ships decloaking near major Confederation installations, ships far more advanced than anything humans had previously revealed. That ends today, Lee continued. We could have disabled your worlds permanently. Instead, we chose a demonstration. As Lee spoke, the systems across the affected planets began coming back online. The message was clear. The disruption was deliberate and controlled. You classified us as Deathworlders, but never understood what that means, Lee said into the stunned silence. Earth didn't make us cooperative. Earth made us survivors, and survivors know when to stop playing nice. Lee turned to leave, his delegation following. At the door, he paused. You have 48 hours to reconsider our terms. After that, the demonstration becomes a response. As the human delegation departed, the Confederation Council sat in shocked silence, finally understanding their grave miscalculation. Commodore John stood on the command deck of the UES Vigilant, watching the tactical display with steady eyes. Around her, officers worked in focused silence, monitoring the largest coordinated military operation in human history. For decades, Earth had presented a facade of limited military capability to the Galactic Confederation. Today, that facade had been dropped entirely. Status report, Jun said quietly. Lieutenant Ba looked up from her station. All battle groups report ready, Commodore. Stealth fields holding across all systems. No indication that Confederation forces have detected our positions. Jian nodded. The Confederation's 48 hours to respond to Earth's demands had expired just 10 minutes ago. Their answer had been predictably dismissive, a statement that the Confederation does not negotiate under threats from lesser species. Very well, Jun said. Begin Operation Consequence. Remember the parameters. We disable, not destroy. Across 12 key systems, human ships suddenly appeared as if from nowhere. Vessels with technology that Earth had carefully hidden from galactic sensors for years emerged from stealth fields. The Confederation had believed humans possessed only basic warp engines and defensive capabilities. They were now witnessing ships with advanced cloaking systems, energy weapons beyond anything humans had previously displayed, and defensive shields that easily absorbed desperate counterattacks. On Jun's main screen, she watched as the Nakari defense station orbiting their homeworld went dark, its weapons disabled by precision strikes. Similar scenes played out across multiple systems. Nakari military command network neutralized, reported Officer Kang. Their fleet is standing down. Any casualties? Jun asked sharply. None confirmed, Commodore. The targeting systems worked exactly as designed. This had been Earth Command's specific order. Demonstrate overwhelming force but minimize loss of life. Humans were showing they could have destroyed their enemies but chose restraint. A message alert sounded at the communication station. "Ma'am, we're receiving emergency hails from 7 Confederation Council members, including the High Counselor," said Lieutenant Ba. "Let them wait," Jun replied. "Continue the operation." The tactical display showed human forces methodically neutralizing military targets throughout Confederation space, a complex operation that had been planned for years, waiting for the moment when diplomacy had truly failed. On one screen, Jun could see the Nekari fleet, the same ships that had destroyed New Horizon Colony, now drifting powerless, their weapons and engines disabled by precise strikes. "Interesting," murmured Commander Min, reviewing incoming data. "The Talari ships are moving away from the conflict zones. The Zuri have actively dropped their shields at our approach." Jian nodded with satisfaction. Not all species had treated humans poorly. Some had shown respect and fairness despite the Confederation's general attitude. Those allies found their worlds and ships completely untouched by the human response. "Message from Admiral Lee," Bai announced. "The Confederation Council is requesting emergency negotiations." Jian allowed herself a small smile. "Tell the Admiral we've completed Phase 1 with minimal casualties. All primary targets neutralized. The blockade is in place." Across Confederation space, the message was clear. Shipping lanes to and from worlds that had supported or enabled aggression against humans were now controlled by Earth forces. Trade to those systems stopped completely. Meanwhile, allies of humanity found their shipping lanes protected by human vessels, their economies suddenly prospering as competitors floundered. 6 hours into the operation, Jun received new orders from Earth Command. She called her senior officers to the tactical table. "The Confederation Council has agreed to emergency talks," she explained, showing the message from Admiral Lee. "They've accepted our initial demands regarding New Horizon. Now we present our full terms." "Do you think they understand yet?" asked Commander Min. "They're beginning to," Jun replied. "But the galaxy needs to learn this lesson completely. For too long, the Confederation believed they could exploit lesser species without consequences." On the main screen, a feed showed Confederation worlds where human forces maintained their blockade. Economic systems that had relied on inequality were grinding to a halt. Powers that had dismissed humans as weak now found themselves helpless against Earth's hidden strength. "The Nakari delegation has formally requested clemency," Lieutenant Bay reported. "They're offering full reparations for New Horizon and public acknowledgement of responsibility." "Forward their request to Earth Command," Jun ordered, "but maintain the blockade." As the operation entered its second day, reports came in from across the galaxy. Species that had been marginalized like humans were rising up, demanding the same respect now being given to Earth. The power structure that had defined galactic politics for centuries was crumbling. In her private quarters later that night, Jun looked at a photograph of her sister who had died at New Horizon Colony. "It wasn't just for you," she whispered. "It was for all of us who were told to accept being treated as less." The reckoning had come, and the galaxy would never be the same. General Song stood by the large window overlooking the new Galactic Cooperation Center. The massive structure had been built on neutral territory, replacing the old Confederation headquarters. Unlike the previous building with its hierarchical design that physically placed certain species above others, this new center featured a circular chamber where all representatives sat at the same level. 2 months had passed since what many now called the Reckoning. Song watched as representatives from dozens of species entered the chamber for the historic signing ceremony. "Quite a different atmosphere than before," remarked Director Park, who stood beside him. Song nodded. "Fear and respect are different things. They're finally learning the difference." Inside the main chamber, Admiral Lee prepared to oversee the signing of the Equality Protocols, a new foundation for interspecies relations. The document sat on a round table made from materials contributed by every member world, including a piece of oak from Earth. "Representatives, please take your seats," Lee announced. The chamber quieted as delegates settled into their places. Lee looked around the room. Some faces showed resignation, others hope, and a few still harbored resentment. The Nakari delegation sat with heads bowed. Their society still recovering from the economic sanctions and the shame of their exposed actions. Today marks a new beginning, Lee began. The equality protocols establish fair treatment for all sentient species regardless of their world of origin, physical capabilities, or technological development. He gestured to the document. No more will resources be extracted unfairly from developing worlds. No more will Deathworlder be used as a term of discrimination. No more will military action against civilian populations be ignored by the galactic community. The room remained silent as Lee continued. Some have asked why humans waited so long to reveal our true capabilities, why we endured unfair treatment when we could have demanded respect earlier. Lee looked directly at the former High Counselor Taro, who now sat as an ordinary delegate. We wanted to give peace every possible chance to succeed. We watched to see which species treated others with fairness when they thought there would be no consequences for cruelty. We remembered who our true allies were. Among those allies, the Taleri and Zuri delegations sat proudly. Their worlds had prospered under human protection during the brief conflict, their fairness rewarded with preferential trade agreements. The signing began with Earth's President hand touching the document first. Each representative followed in turn. When the Nakari representative approached, he paused. My people wish to formally apologize once more for the destruction of New Horizon Colony, he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. We were wrong. Our actions were unforgivable. Lee nodded solemnly. Justice has been served, but healing takes time. After the signing, a young Taleri diplomat approached Song at the reception. Is it true, she asked, that humans could have dominated the galaxy years ago if you wished? Song considered his answer carefully. We never wanted domination, only fairness. Earth taught us that power should protect, not exploit. But how did you hide such advanced technology? Our scientists say your stealth systems must have taken decades to develop. Song smiled slightly. When you're from a world that constantly tries to kill you, you learn to be prepared for anything. He looked out at the gathering, including the possibility that those who call themselves friends might not be. Across the reception hall, Officer Kang was speaking with several younger delegates from various species. They listened with rapt attention. The day the Deathworlders stopped playing nice, one of them said with obvious awe, that's what they're calling it on my world. A warning story for children now. Kang shook her head. Not a warning. A lesson. Treat others as equals, even when you think they can't fight back. In another corner, Admiral Lee was approached by the new council chairperson, a Zuri named Raul, whose species had always treated humans fairly. The new defensive pact is ready for review, Raul said quietly. With human technology and the combined resources of all member worlds, we can ensure something like New Horizon never happens again. Lee nodded. Earth will contribute our full capabilities this time. No more secrets between true allies. As the reception continued, Song slipped away to a quiet balcony. He looked up at the stars, thinking of how quickly the galaxy had changed. 3,000 lives lost at New Horizon had transformed the fate of countless billions across the stars. Director Park joined him, holding 2 glasses of Earth wine. To those we lost, she said softly. And to the future they helped create, Song replied. Below them, representatives of 100 worlds mingled freely, many forming connections that would have been impossible under the old order. Species once marginalized now spoke confidently, their voices finally valued. The legend of the day Deathworlders stopped playing nice would be remembered for generations, not as a story of vengeance, but as the moment when true equality became possible among the stars.